Hi friends, Tony DeWitt here, Missouri appellate attorney and a guy who likes to make the law make sense on YouTube. Here's what we're discussing today. This has been one of the most difficult videos I've had to put together. So I want to preface this video with a couple of personal stories. I've had the opportunity to stare down a shotgun barrel pointed directly at my head. It was an eye-opening experience, and when you get right down to it, it was actually a little bit funny, but only in retrospect, and only because the deputy involved had great trigger discipline. My wife and I had bought our home in Florida. We'd taken some things down to the house from our home in Missouri, and we were now loading up a couple of things to take back to some friends in Jeff City. They had asked us to bring them back. As I tried to turn off the burglar alarm we'd installed just a few days earlier, I goofed up somehow, and I'm still not sure how I did that, but it seemed like I couldn't call the alarm company. I picked up the phone and I could not get a signal, and so I just assumed that the alarm wasn't working and we'd have to get them on that after we left, because we were supposed to drive back that day. Little did I know that I'd actually sent a panic alarm to the alarm company, and they had dispatched the Walton County Sheriff. Now, I don't recommend playing with any county sheriff in the South. They're not interested in humor, and they don't think false alarms are funny, although they excused mine when I told them I had ADT, and they said, yeah, that happens all the time. But at the time, I walked out into my garage with an armload of goodies from the house to load into my SUV. I doubtless looked a lot like somebody robbing a home. And for that reason, I came into contact with a big deputy and his big shotgun, which looked at the time like it was roughly the size of the Holland Tunnel. Now, I can laugh about it now. At the time, I was really alarmed, no pun intended. It's one of those yikes experiences that people have. That's the only trauma I've ever suffered regarding firearms. But I don't think firearms are funny, and I don't think violence is funny, and I especially don't think violence in the schools is funny. Now, my wife and I were married in 2000, and in the fall of 1999, a few months before we were going to get married, she was working as a high school teacher in Valley, Alabama, and she was a great math teacher. She taught algebra, calculus, geometry, a number of other math courses as they were assigned, and she had everyone from the lowest level freshmen through the senior classes in her classes all at one, all during the day. So one thing about teenagers is that they're not always thoughtful or rational. And when hormones are raging, they are even more so irrational. Frequently, they get over their skis and they do stupid things, and that's what happened in this case. There was a boy who had a girlfriend who was in my wife's class, and he wanted to spend time with his girlfriend. And like I said, this was in November of 1999, which is only a few months after the Columbine school shooting. And he decided to call in a bomb threat to get his girl out of class so they could have this time together. So he made a call and said he had put a bomb in my wife's classroom. In his planning, I guess it didn't occur to him that it might scare the girl too. It did. But it did get her out of the classroom for that period while scaring the daylights out of my wife, because he mentioned her by name and said he was with the same group of folks as was Columbine, the Columbine shooters. Now, nobody deserves that. My wife didn't deserve that. People who worked at that school didn't deserve that. The people who had to investigate and arrest that young man and see to it that he was prosecuted didn't need that. Everybody deserves a safe workplace, but we tend to think that just because somebody survives trauma, everything's okay with them later on. It isn't. It took my wife months to get over that, and she had bad dreams for a long time. That boy went to jail for a year, so it was a real lose-lose situation all the way around. I point this out because I don't want anyone to think I'm insensitive to what the woman we're going to see here on this video went through. I'm not. But I do want to point out why I think the prosecutor here is giving a master class in witness examination. And that's because she's got a witness who has been traumatized. I don't think most of us can understand what that's like. I'm sure I can't understand what that is really like. But in this situation, the individual who is doing this witness examination, this young lady, does an absolutely great job. So let's look at this first clip. The prosecutor here gets a few basic questions in to lighten the mood.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm going to call you Molly. I assume that's okay.
That's okay.
Okay. Molly, can you tell the jury what your profession is?
I'm an educator.
Where is it? Are you a teacher?
I am a teacher.
Okay. And who is your employer?
Oxford Schools.
Okay. How long have you been in? How long have you worked for Oxford Schools?
I started working for Oxford in the fall of '98.
Okay. Would that be your entire career?
That is my entire career.
Okay. And you stayed in that one school district?
Correct.
Okay. Your current position is what?
I work for Oxford Virtual Academy.
All right. And when did you begin that position?
I began that position 18 months ago.
Okay. I'm going to take you back to November 30th of 2021.
Now that's a good thing. She's got her kind of settled down, ready to answer questions. Then she moves into the events of the day.
Can you tell the jury what your position was at that time?
At that time in Oxford, I was under teacher contract, but I was the ELA coach and the International Baccalaureate Coordinator. So I worked specifically with curriculum and teachers, like instructional moves in the classroom.
Okay. So
ELA, what's ELA?
I'm sorry, thank you. It's English Language Arts.
all right. Thanks, Judge. So how much contact did you have with students compared to teachers at that point?
I would say minimal in comparison to teachers.
All right. And you did, though, spend some time in the classroom in your career?
Absolutely, yes. I spent the majority of my career in the classroom.
Okay. So on that day, what was your typical day like around that time in that position?
So in that position, I would work with building kind of professional development opportunities, or I was working with teachers individually. On that day in particular, I was working with the media specialist and my other coaching colleagues, my other instructional coaching colleagues, on building professional development for the next day.
All right. Did you have a classroom?
I had an office that I shared with two other individuals, and it was like half a classroom, but it was in the educational hallway.
So it was a classroom made into two offices? Mm-hmm. Okay.
So she's established that she wasn't teaching kids. She was coordinating curriculum, so Crumbley had no grudge against her. She next describes where her classroom was.
Molly, what is that?
That's the layout of the high school.
All right, so that's a map of the school.
Correct.
Okay. And can you tell me where your classroom / office was?
So if you're looking at that yellow portion, I am, thank you, I am where you see 222, and then there's 226. I'm that little sliver right in between there, and that was 224.
Okay, Mark's going to show you on the map. He's
Correct.
not letting me have access to the clicker for the trial, so we're relying on him. Okay, so is that your classroom?
Yes, that like little sliver where you can see, it looks like a bunch of names are written in there. Mm-hmm. That was the room that I was in, yes.
Okay.
The purpose of this is to put the jury right there, in that classroom right next to her. They are there with her while she is going through this. And now we get into the real grit of the testimony. She sees the kids all run out. Listen to the way the prosecutor controls her voice, lets the witness pause, reflect, and then answer, and how she conducts this exam in an unhurried, professional manner and in a way that gets the real emotion out of this information.
I paused for a second because I'm thinking like, well, what's going on, right? I don't know what's happening. I head back into my office space. The hallway is completely clear. And I walk into my office and I'm like, all right, what could possibly be happening in this moment?
Was it unusual for the hallway to be completely clear?
I don't believe the bell had rung yet, so that was unusual.
Okay. And so what did you do?
It was in pausing, trying to like gather what to do next. I heard three things pretty quickly together, like so quickly together that I have a hard time distinguishing what came first and what came last. But there were the sounds of like three like loud pops that I could have mistaken for lockers closing if we were using lockers.
Okay. So when you heard the three pops, what did you think that sound was?
Well, again, there was that. There was doors started slamming. I could hear like boom, 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 and then the principal at the time, Steve Wolf, came over the PA and said, "We're heading into lockdown. This is not a drill."
And how long had you known Steve?
So a couple years at that point in time.
Okay.
Now, our witness here is keeping it together quite well at this point. I'll spare you the lead up to the crucial testimony, and we'll just jump right there and get through it together.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question?
Describe that for me.
I lock eyes with him, and I instantly see that movement. And I jump to the side.
Okay. What happened after you jumped to the side?
As I jump, I can...
And did you ever get the night lock installed at that
The
point?
night lock is not installed at this point.
Okay.
So when I move, I kind of jump and turn my body this way at the same time.
Okay, and for the record, you're motioning, turning your shoulders to the right.
To the right. Mm-hmm. And I feel like my left shoulder moves back a bit, and I feel a burn like hot water had stung me.
Where did you feel that?
In my arm.
Which arm?
In my left arm.
Okay.
Up top.
Way into your right below your shoulder?
Yep.
Okay. And are you standing up? Are you sitting down?
I'm standing up at this point in time.
Well, it's obvious she's been shot. She doesn't know it yet because the adrenaline is flowing and she's in flight mode. She can't fight, so fight or flight, when it kicks in, she's in flight mode. She does what she has to do and she survives. I want you to take note of something here. She did not hear a gunshot. All she felt was something like hot water being poured on her arm. Incredibly, people who are shot often do not hear the shot. They may wind up experiencing the trauma of the shot, or it could just be that the trauma, all told, wipes the memory of that shot, that sound of that shot, out of their mind. But this is incredible, especially as we'll see here in just a moment. This was, I think, the most powerful part of the testimony, though, even though it came at the very end, and I had already figured this out based on the earlier photos of the door as they were talking.
At some point, you were shown weeks later a picture of your doorway. Mm-hmm. Do you remember that?
I do.
Okay. Do you remember who showed that to you?
No.
Okay. Was it me?
I did. Well, I did see I did see it in your office, yes.
Okay, when you were preparing to testify?
Yes.
I'm going to put that picture on the screen. It's People's Exhibit 8. I don't think there's an objection. Molly, is that your classroom door?
It is my, yes.
Okay. What was your reaction when you saw that?
He was aiming to kill me.
Do you know which one of those shots landed in your shoulder?
I don't. I have no idea which one landed in my shoulder, but I know the top one, that's where my head would have been. And the two down below are my chest area.
Okay.
I unlock that door every day.
Can you imagine the emotional scarring of having to look at that door every day and know that that door and your quick thinking probably saved your life on that day? Now, she wasn't badly wounded, but that doesn't matter. It wasn't life-threatening, but again, that's not the point. Her testimony demonstrates more clearly than any of the charts, receipts, or anything else what those folks who were gunned down that day felt in the seconds before their lives were ended. So, this was very powerful testimony, and there is absolutely no way you can cross-examine this witness and do a good job of it. The defense then makes the smartest move they have ever made so far in this case.
I have nothing further, Your Honor.
Cross.
I have no questions, Your Honor.
Thank you.
As I've said, this is a tragic case, and I think this young teacher coming in there, her daughter is texting her, worried about her survival. Her husband, I'm sure, was worried about her survival. She goes into that courtroom and she tells her story. I think we all ought to be proud of her, and I think we all ought to feel a connection with her. She was a victim. She didn't choose to be there, but she came to court. She told her story. She did her part to ensure that justice was done. Without witnesses willing to come forward and tell their story, there wouldn't be any justice. So my hat is off to this young lady. I think she did. I'm sure she is an excellent instructor. I'm sure she's an excellent teacher. I'm sure she's great at curriculum. But she is also very good at standing up for what matters. That's what I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments down below, or you can always email me at the address up above. Thanks again for staying tuned, and please come back and see me tomorrow down here at the beach. If you like this video, here are a few others you might try, and don't forget to subscribe. Have a terrific day, guys.